Sounds like Stacey found a video with Florian and that woman.
Gosh, so it looks like Darcey and Florian aren't BFFs anymore. But has he seriously been cheating?
It is a quiet therapy room in Arizona. Soft lights, a wooden table, a therapist seated across from a couple holding hands. In front of the couple, on the table, is a small wooden sandbox. Tiny figurines line the edge, cars, helicopters, houses, people. The therapist explains the exercise. The couple is going to place these figurines in the sandbox to represent the people in their lives and where those people stand in relation to their marriage. It is, on paper, a gentle exercise. A toy. A children's tool used for adult emotions. Stacey Silva takes her time. She picks up her father. She places him in the sand. She picks up her mother. She places her in the sand. She picks up a helicopter representing the family's travels across the world during her father's career. She places it in the sand. And then, fans. She picks up a tiny figure representing her twin sister, Darcey Silva, the woman who has been her best friend, her business partner, her co-star, her constant companion, her shadow, her mirror, her other half, for 50 straight years. And Stacey Silva places that figure in the sandbox. Too close to Florian. Way, way too close. The therapist's eyes go up. Florian shifts in his seat, and the sentence that comes out of Stacey's mouth next, fans, is the sentence that broke the entire Silva twin empire. Welcome back to the Tell-All Tapes, your home for the deepest 90-day Fiancé documentaries on YouTube. Tonight, we are doing the deep dive on what is, without exaggeration, one of the most painful, most explosive, most unforgettable moments in the entire history of this franchise. The sandbox therapy scene from 90 Day The Last Resort, Season 2. The scene that turned twin against twin. The scene that exposed late-night phone calls. The scene that put the words, homewrecker, on a sister's lips. The scene that, looking back, was the moment the Silva twin bond cracked, in public. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why this one episode may have done more damage to the Silva legacy than every other scandal in their lives combined. Let's set the stage. By 2024 and 2025, Stacey Silva and Florian Sukaj had been married for nearly 5 years. The Shanti Zora cheating scandal from 2020 had never fully healed. Stacey had married Florian despite knowing. She had forgiven him. She had moved forward. They had had a second wedding in 2022. But the trust, fans, was never truly restored. By 2024, Stacey had also gone through a serious health scare. She had needed kidney surgery. And during her recovery, she has stated on camera, Florian was not the husband she needed him to be. He was not emotionally present. He was not physically available the way she needed. He was, by her account, drifting. She told the cameras she needed help to learn how to try to trust him again. She admitted she was carrying the financial weight of the marriage. She talked about the toxic cycle they were trapped in. So when TLC offered Stacey and Florian a spot on 90 Day The Last Resort Season 2, where struggling 90-day fiancé couples go to a retreat for intensive couples therapy, Stacey accepted. She said it was her last chance to make the relationship work. Florian, on the other hand, was famously skeptical of therapy. He had told producers from the start that he did not believe in it. He was, by his own admission, not coming into the retreat with an open mind. From day one, the cracks between them were visible. Then, in episode 8 of Season 2, which aired on January 20th, 2025, titled Last Minute Invitation, the cast members went through what was called Sandbox therapy. The premise of the exercise was simple. Each person would arrange figurines and objects in a sandbox to physically represent their relationships, conflicts, and emotional dynamics. It is a real therapeutic technique called sand tray therapy, used by licensed therapists to help patients externalize internal struggles. For most of the couples, the exercise produced quiet, vulnerable moments. Sophie and Rob felt deeply exposed. Brandon and Julia had their own quieter revelations. But Stacey Silva, fans, was about to use that sandbox to drop a bomb that the franchise would talk about for years. Stacey began carefully. She started with her family, her dad, her mom. The helicopter representing their world travels because of her father Mike Silva's career. She then placed her sister Darcey in the sandbox, and as she pointed at the small figure of her twin, Stacey said, quote, "My sister, right here. I have a twin. There's a lot of conflict between Darcey is her name, and we work together. We have a company together. I feel like the twin thing is an issue at times." Then she paused. She looked at the therapist. She looked at Florian. And she said, quote, "Calling Florian in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning. Read that, fans. 3 in the morning. Stacey was telling the world, on camera, that her own twin sister, the woman she had shared a womb with, was calling her husband at 3 in the morning. In confessional, Stacey explained further. She said Darcey and Florian had a, quote, buddy-buddy bond. Let's go out. Let's hang out late. She said Darcey would call Florian. He would call Darcey. Even at night. Even when Stacey was already in bed. Even sometimes when Georgie, Darcey's husband, was sleeping. Stacey said, quote, "I feel like I'm the odd man out in my own marriage." Stop and feel that line, fans. The odd man out in your own marriage. Because of your twin. The person who is supposed to make you feel the least alone in the world is the person making you feel the most alone in your own relationship. That, fans, is a wound that no sandbox in the world can hold. But Stacey was not done. She turned to Florian and prompted him. She said, quote, "But she recently said something to Florian. What did she say? Why don't you tell her?" Florian hesitated. The camera held on his face. The therapist held her breath. The audience held its collective breath. And then, Florian, slowly, confirmed what Stacey was implying. Darcey had been encouraging him to break up with Stacey. Darcey had said, in some version, that he should be single, that he deserved better, that he would be better off single, better off single. Said by your wife's twin sister, to your face, behind your wife's back. Read that again. The pain of that sentence is, in a way, beyond words. Fans erupted on social media. The internet split into camps. Some defended Darcey, saying she was just being a protective sister, watching Florian hurt Stacey for years and finally trying to help end the cycle. Others sided with Stacey, saying Darcey had crossed a line no sister, twin or otherwise, should ever cross. The phrase homewrecker was thrown around in every comment section. Memes flooded TikTok. Reddit threads spiraled. The Silva twin empire, in a single sandbox session, was shaken. Episode 8 was just the beginning. Because in the episode aired March 3rd, 2025, Darcey Silva herself showed up at the retreat. The producers brought her in for what was called deep therapy with Stacey and Florian. Darcey arrived. Stacey was furious. Stacey did not want to be in the same room with her. Stacey stormed off shortly after Darcey joined the group for dinner. The therapist tried to mediate. The cameras kept rolling. And the next morning, in a workout session with another cast member named Rob, Darcey opened up about how bad the argument with her sister had been the night before. Rob suggested the twins might need some space from each other. Darcey agreed. And then Darcey, in a moment that fans will never forget, said, quote, "If we don't fix this now, we're gone. We're done. We're done." Said by the woman who had been Stacey's twin for 50 years. Said by the woman whose entire reality TV brand was built on twin solidarity. Said by the woman whose own fashion company, House of 11, was named after a brother they shared. We're done. That is how serious this rupture was. But Stacey was not finished. Earlier in the explosive series of episodes, Stacey had asked her sister the wildest, most uncomfortable question of the entire season. She had looked Darcey in the eyes and asked, quote, "Do you want to be with my husband?" Yes. Fans. Out of her own mouth. To her own twin. The level of distrust that had to exist for that sentence to be possible is almost unimaginable in a normal family. But Stacey, by that point, had stopped trusting that any of her words to Darcey were getting through. She was using shock to break through to her sister. She was using the most direct, most painful question she could think of to force Darcey to confront whatever was actually going on. Darcey, predictably, denied. She insisted she did not want Florian. She insisted Stacey was misunderstanding. She accused Stacey of also being too close to Georgie. She said, fairly, that Stacey called her husband too. But Stacey was not buying any of it. Stacey told her twin, quote, "You overstep your boundaries a lot." She told the therapist, "Florian has always been there for Darcey, no matter the time of day." Stacey was painting a clear picture, fans, of a sister who, in her view, had inserted herself into her marriage in ways that crossed every line that twin sisters should respect. So, what was actually happening between Darcey and Florian? Let's be honest about what we know and what we don't know. We know that Darcey and Florian had a friendship. We know they spent time together as in-laws. We know that at some point, Darcey told Florian that Stacey deserved better, that he should be single, that the relationship was hurting Stacey. We know Florian confirmed this on camera. We know Stacey believed her sister had been encouraging Florian to leave the marriage. We know there were late-night phone calls. We do not know whether anything physical or romantic ever occurred between Darcey and Florian. There is no evidence of that. Darcey has denied it. Florian has not been accused of anything intimate by his wife. What was happening, in all likelihood, was something much more common but still painful. A protective sister, watching her twin get hurt for years, started overstepping. She started giving Florian advice she should have been giving Stacey. She started bonding with Florian in a way that, even if it was platonic, made Stacey feel excluded from her own marriage. That is what fans like to call emotional inappropriateness. It is not the kind of betrayal that involves bedsheets. It is the kind of betrayal that involves whispers. And, in a marriage already wounded by infidelity, it can be just as devastating. By the end of the Last Resort season, 2 arc, the Silva twins had been through more pain together than perhaps at any other point in their adult lives. Stacey had accused Darcey of being a homewrecker. Darcey had said the relationship between them might be done. Florian had been caught in the middle. The therapists had tried to help. The cameras had captured every excruciating moment. And by the time the tell-all aired, the question fans were asking was, can this twin bond survive this? Speaking to People magazine, Stacey actually offered a surprising reflection. She said the twins were, quote, in dire need of therapy, and that it had been, quote, a blessing to have Darcey at the retreat and get some counseling. Darcey added, quote, we're very resilient, and we're family, so we have to have each other's back at the end of the day. So the twins, even after Sandbox therapy, even after Darcey's words to Florian, even after the homewrecker accusation, even after the do you want to be with my husband question, even after Darcey said we're done, somehow, slowly, painfully, started healing the bond. As we move into 2026, the Silva twins are still working together, still talking, still showing up for House of 11. I'm still recording music, still posing for magazine covers. The fracture was real. The damage was real. But the bond, fans, is older and stronger than any single Sandbox. So what is the lesson here? What does the Sandbox therapy scene actually teach us? I think it teaches us something painful and beautiful at the same time. Twin bonds are sacred, but they are also dangerous when they are not respected. The closeness that helps 2 sisters survive their childhood can also strangle their marriages in adulthood. When you are so close to another human being that you cannot tell where your life ends and theirs begins, you start crossing lines without meaning to. You call her husband at 3 in the morning because in your head, he is family too. You whisper advice you should be whispering to her instead. You insert yourself into decisions that are not yours to make. And the wife, your twin, the person you love most in the world, ends up feeling pushed out of her own marriage by the very person who is supposed to have her back. That is what happened to Stacey. That is what Darcey, almost certainly without malice, allowed to happen. And the Sandbox therapy scene was the moment when the unspoken finally became spoken. The whisper became a shout. The silence became a confession. The twin bond, for one painful moment, was put on trial, and both twins, somehow in their messy human way, are still trying to rebuild it. So tell me, fans, in the comments below, honestly, was Stacey Silva right to expose her sister Darcey on national TV in the Sandbox therapy scene? Did Darcey Silva really cross the line by calling Florian Sukaj at 3 in the morning? Or is Stacey overreacting because of her own marriage trauma? Are you Team Stacey or Team Darcey? And tell me why. And the hardest question of all, fans. If you found out your own sister had been telling your husband he would be better off without you, what would you do? Could you ever forgive her? Or would the trust be gone for good? Tell me where you stand. I want to read every comment. And if you have ever loved a sibling who hurt you in a way you didn't see coming and somehow forgave them anyway, drop a sand emoji, an hourglass, or a heart in the comments below. Twins, sisters, brothers, family, fans. We are all carrying some sand. Let's pour it out in the comments tonight. If this hits you in the chest, smash that like button. Subscribe to the Tell All Tapes for new 90-day Fiancé documentaries every single week. Share this with the friend who has been arguing about the Silva twins with you since season 1. This was the Tell All Tapes, and we will see you in the next one.